Hello. Hey, welcome to episode 2. I'm excited to present today Budget Boot Camp. My name is Dwight Owens. I'm here with my partner, Miss Anita Weish. And we've got 2 new participants today who's going to be listening and learning and asking lots of tough questions.
My name is Nisha Himes. I'm the founder of Grow Foundation, which is a local organization, a nonprofit organization, providing assistance to victims and survivors of abuse looking to rebuild their life.
Well, good. Good
Thank
to have
you.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Latasha. I am a senior accountant for a nonprofit organization.
Awesome. So why is it important that you be here at Budget Boot Camp today?
I think it's important just as a small business owner, but also interacting with people in the community who need to know how to rebuild their financial life as well. So,
Yeah. How about you?
For me, even as an accountant, I too struggle with debt. So I think this class would help me to create or build generational wealth for my children in the long run.
That is awesome. The budget, as we'll see here, the spending plan is foundational to all of those kinds of things, building generational wealth, teaching your children how finances and money work. So that's exciting. We'll press ahead here. The question for us today is one of a couple of questions is how do you control your expenses? We're talking about you. And so take a minute or so to reflect on that. Here's another survey question for you. When it comes to budgeting, put yourself there in the sentence. Do you say you love it? Something that you like doing, you neither like nor dislike, or hey, I hate it altogether. just take a minute to just answer just one of those. One choice only, please.
Oh, I was thinking all 4 on some days.
Right.
The next question is, how often do you track your budget performance? Is it on a monthly basis, weekly basis, quarterly basis, or if you're like me here lately, quite honestly, whenever I can get around to it? So that's a choice. But just reflect on that. What tools do you use for budgeting? Is it like a desktop software package like a Quicken or QuickBooks that is, businesses use a lot of QuickBooks? Is it an app that's on your phone, especially your younger folks there, like EveryDollar, Honeydew? What about an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet? Or, hey, if it's even just a plain old notebook, white sheet of paper, or legal pad, just curious there, what do you think about that and how do you approach the tools for budgeting yourself? So let's talk about, as we dive into this, what is a budget? What is a budget? A budget is a written plan for your money. I want to highlight your money, right? Because you are ultimately in control of it. You're not in control of a lot of things. We can't control the weather. We can't control the temperature outside, the traffic, but your money that you make and bring in on a monthly basis, you actually can control that. Direct it, tell your money where to go. So the budget provides an estimate of income and expenses that you have over a set period of time. It allows you to direct and allocate your money to things you care about based on your priorities, based on your values. It allows you to keep track of your own goals and helping you to reach those, your savings goals, your spending goals. And it literally allows you, it permits you. We see oftentimes folks, wow, I've got to do this dreaded budget thing. Hey, I don't make enough. Really, literally, the budget actually gives you permission to spend. It says, hey, if I'm going to take, $40 this week and spend it on McDonald's, or I'm going to take $30 this week and spend it on whatever, it allows you to do that. It actually gives you that control. We'll press ahead. But the key thing there is in terms of focusing on your why, in terms of setting smart goals for yourself. The budget in and of itself is just a tool. The budget is the budget. But beyond that budget, it is allowing you to set some goals for yourself. And we like to use this acronym SMART in determining our financial goals. So literally that is the first thing in terms of the budget for yourself. It is finding out a goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And then based on that, you're using that budget as a tool to help you achieve it. So I like to think of it as the so that. I'm doing this budget thing on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, whatever your periodicity is, so that we can measure our goal of reducing our household's expenses by 15% over the next 3 years. Notice it is time bound. We're going to do this over the next 3 years. It is, hey, we're going to reduce it measurable by 15%. Hey, we can probably achieve that, and it is indeed relevant to our goals and our values. We're going to maintain the goal so that I can monitor my debt reduction plan to be done, to be completely paid off of all consumer debt by July 2026, as an example. There are many other examples that we could go to, but we'll press ahead. Here are some practical budget tips for you. Some things that you want to just keep in mind. We just talked about identifying your values and priorities. I like to tell people to get an accountability partner. An accountability partner will help you in your quest for getting your budget lined up to your goals. That accountability partner can kind of just be a sensing board, a sounding board that you use. I tell folks, especially couples, to have a budget committee meeting. Imagine on a Friday night, a married couple, you've got your kids all in bed, it's 9 p.m., you're relaxed, the week is done, you get yourself your favorite beverage, you know, a glass of water, a glass of tea, hot tea, whatever your choice is, popcorn, potato chips, get your sandwich, and you're just sitting down at the kitchen table to talk about kitchen table kinds of things, budgeting. So you're going to look at that budget, you're going to figure out, hey, we may be able to increase over here, decrease over there, again, based on your priorities and values. And you're just going to work the budget. It is a continual thing. You're going to work it relentlessly as you continuously organize. We'll talk a lot about creating a zero-based budget. And all that simply means is you want at the end of the budget period, whether it's weekly, monthly, or whatever, the amount of income that's coming in and the amount of expenses going out, you want them to be equal. You want the exact amount that's coming in, going out. Give yourself 3 to 6 months to refine the budget. Be intentional about it, but give yourself a lot of grace. I like to tell people to start with a pencil, not a pen, in doing the budget. You'll be doing some erasing, you'll be doing some changes as you work to perfect it. It is a never-ending quest, but it is a lot of fun. Make it fun, stay encouraged, stay motivated, give yourself grace and kindness, as I mentioned, and maintaining the flexibility.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So how often should I adjust my budget, and under what circumstances should I adjust my budget?
Yeah, very good question. We talked about in that other slide where I asked on a survey, quarterly or monthly or weekly, figure out a rhythm that's best for you. For me personally, on a monthly basis, as an example, works that I review it. And remember, the budget is a forward-looking document, not a backwards looking. So you're not looking at, we're in the month of April 2024 now. You're not looking at March. You're just looking back there for historicals as you're looking to craft your budget. So right now, mid-April, you'd want to be looking at May's budget. Hey, I'm projecting I've got this amount of money that's coming in for May, and then here are my outflows. So I do it on a monthly basis. When starting out, if you need to do it on a weekly or even a daily basis as you refine it, do that. Yes, ma'am.
So to piggyback off that, what should I pay first out of my budget?
Yeah, good question. Priorities, we talk a lot about 4 walls. What are your priorities? They are housing, shelter kinds of things. They are food, particularly for a family, 3 or 4 children. You got to make sure you're eating, right? Your transportation, if you're needing transportation to get to work every day, and then your utilities, which are a part of that as well. I mean, you need your lights, you need your gas. It would be very, very bad, in the middle of winter around here 30
Right.
degrees outside to not have heat for your children.
Exactly.
So that comfort level. Those 4 priorities we would start. Others, hey, if you're faith-based, like many of us are, right, you want to prioritize your tithes, your offering as an example. And then throughout our classes in Bank On, as an example, we tell people to pay yourself first. You gotta just have that mindset. So what does that mean?
Right.
That means however much you can afford, $25, $50, $10 even every month, before you pay Visa, before you pay MasterCard, before you pay Dominion Power, put aside $5, $10, $20, $100 to yourself in a savings account that you're building your emergencies for.
And
Make
then
sense?
just looking at some of the practical tips, one of the things I really think is important when you're first starting off is having that accountability partner.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I think people get confused, say for instance, if you're not married and your accountability partner is a friend,
Right.
just remember everybody's budget is going to be different
Right.
because you may have daycare and I don't, or you may like to shop. You still have to remember when you're doing that budget to make sure, even though you have that accountability person, that you're focusing in on everything that is important to you. But that accountability person, it's harder to say, "Oh, I'm not doing my budget," if I've told Latasha to come over and I'm like, man, Latasha will be here at 8 o'clock.
Right.
So that
Right.
accountability, and especially when you're first starting out, because starting with the budgeting, it can feel overwhelming, especially if you're that person that, okay, I'm getting paid tomorrow. I know my check is $1,500 and you're working it out all in your head. But once you get to that point of doing that budget and writing it down, I think whenever you write something down, you're going to be more likely to stick with it because you're looking at it every day than when you try to balance it in your head. So I think that is having that accountability partner is really, really a good thing. And that grace and kindness, because just like learning to ride a bike, you have some people that start that budget and you fall off. But as a kid, you fell off, you got back on the bike and you kept moving. And that's how that budget is going to be until you get a system that really works for you. So just give yourself that grace that you may not do it every month in the beginning, but as you get better at it, it's just going to come second nature.
Good stuff, good stuff. We'll press ahead with some more tips here. Hey, avoid lifestyle creep. Back to your earlier question, for example, when I examine maybe some of those life moments, changing moments, a pay raise as an example, you definitely want to re-examine. If, for example, you reduce the hours, you kind of definitely want to. If you're getting overtime, you know, you're into the middle of the month. So those kinds of things, you kind of revisit it, right?
Or you pay off a big bill.
Yeah,
Like a
exactly.
car payment.
Like a
Now
car.
where I'm gonna take that $500, what I'm gonna do with it? Now the car is paid off.
Yeah, whenever that situation changes. I like to tell people that budgeting is not a math problem. I know that sounds antithetical, right? But it really isn't. It really is a matter of your personal relationship and interaction with your money, with your dollars, no matter how much you have or how little. It's that interaction that you're having with it. We'll talk a little bit about reducing spending and ways to do that. Take a look at those subscriptions that you've got. You know, if you've got every subscription there from the Amazon to the Hulu to the Netflix to the
Stop stepping
No.
on the
Like,
toes.
hey.
Feel like he coming for me, right?
Toes.
Feel like he coming for me. Oh, I just showed up. He coming for me.
Okay.
Yeah, take a look at those. That gym membership, you know, when you can, as an alternative, and some of these may only be for a season. So back to those SMART goals, you can say, hey, for the next year, I'm not going to Ghost Gym. I'm just going to walk around the neighborhood. I'm going to just do some, you know, yard work to get exercise. And those kinds of things, dues and cutting the cable. I mean, that's a big one. I know folks who may have, you know, every subscription, but in addition, they've got cable.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to take a look at that. Eating out less, you know, less online shopping and things like this. Don't forget the income side of the equation, folks, where you may be doing DoorDashing or Ubering or doing some extra hours or something to bring in some extra money again for a season. It is critically important that you work and strive and have one of your goals to build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months, but you can also start off with $300, $400, $500, whatever that means, so that when the car breaks down, I call this having a GOK fund. Anybody care to venture what my GOK fund is? Anybody? Quickly.
Okay, God only knows.
She knows.
I've heard this, yeah.
before.
I was trying to let somebody else
Let
guess.
somebody, my
Yeah.
God only knows account that, hey, the tire, you have a flat, the car breaks down. This is similar to an emergency fund, but there are some categories of things that we can talk about. An emergency is the 5-year-old, falls down and chips a tooth,
Right.
needs emergency care and things like that. The car breaking down, the flat tire, that's probably not a matter of if, but only it's when. So take a look at those kinds of things and just be aggressive about it. Here's some list of expenses in specific categories. Fixed expenses, you see there are some examples of those. The mortgage is a great one because, again, month in, month out, it's probably the same if you've got a fixed mortgage rate. The car payment, those are fixed kinds of things. So those are easily captured, right? From your historical spending, hey, how much I spend on my mortgage, how much the car note is. Now, some other variable things, though, groceries and fuel and entertainment, medical kinds of things may vary from month to month. And then periodic expenses are some examples here, but these are very, very important to take a look at.
Yes.
Property tax that only comes like once or twice a year, but when those months are. Insurance payments come every 6 months, perhaps every 3 months. A lot of folks will budget those on a monthly basis. Birthdays and holidays. Birthdays and holidays. Guess what, folks? Christmas comes year in and year out on the 25th of December. I'm not telling you anything new here. So that is something that you can look forward to and budget, right? Valentine's Day, hey man, February 14th every year. So you can actually budget for that. You don't have to necessarily wait until the 13th, right? To go and, blow your budget to go and buy things on a credit card as an example. So those are some examples.
Look, somebody may wait till the 14th when it's all discount.
on
discount, hey,
Saving
Get that day after.
Yeah.
look,
Get in trouble though.
you better have me not mad at you for that on that accountability piece.
Yeah.
Say, hey, we waited until the discount, or even better yet, the day after. Like for Christmas, for
that's
me,
it.
I oftentimes go and buy the Christmas cards and the lights and things like that the day after, but I'm doing it in anticipation of
Yeah.
the next seasons. Good point.
In our class, a lot of times in the bank on class, the periodic expenses are what people always forget to put in the budget.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I pay my personal property taxes in June. It's not rolling around again until next year. So we don't prepare for it. But that is one that when you're doing that budget, really remember and write those things down, because just like you do anything else, those property taxes, you can set aside money each month so that when it rolls around in June, you're not stressing on how I'm going to come up with 500 or whatever that
Right.
personal property tax is.
And we've got a slide, I think, coming up here in a little bit that talks again. Forecasting, we'll breeze through this one, but that's what we're talking about, things that are irregular.
Yeah.
We'll press forward to the next one. This is what we were just talking about. You can actually break this down. This example is by month. So that you've got all of these periodic things. Hey, I'm going to plan on getting your oil changed to new tires. There's the property tax, somebody's birthday, oil change again, the car, holidays. So you can just add all of those up. And at the end of it here, what we're saying is there was $1,200 throughout the year of these expenses. You break that up into $200 per each month, and this is how your spending plan would look based on these periodics. Hey, in January, there was nothing periodic, but I've got $200 in reserve. I'm going to add another $200 for February, but I'm spending $50 on an oil change. And so therefore, at the end of February, I've got this amount in reserve, and this is my balance, my running balance of that. And it just goes on like that each month. Every time you're putting money into this budget, you're spending it out. That was the delta between the two. And then this is your running balance. So that at the end of the year, then you've accounted for all of your periodic expenses. We'll press ahead to the next one there. Again, more questions. Hey, which of the following should be included in the spending plan? Is it periodic expenses, goals, expense monthlies, or all of the above?
Say all of it.
Yep.
All of it.
All of the above. All of the above, I think, is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Next one. And all of the above. Hey, some techniques for tracking. We talked about some of these. There's an envelope method. Years ago, folks would have a lot of cash. We weren't in a digital environment, with credit cards and things like that. Literally, if you've got cash, you can get yourself a set of envelopes and you can write on there, here's my rent or my mortgage, and stuff cash into that envelope. Here, for the month of April, I'm going to spend $300 in food. You put $300 of cash into that food envelope. Guess what? 3 days before the end of the month, if there is no money there, wow, you got to take a look. You got to make some hard decisions. Food is one of those prioritized ones. But for example, if the entertainment envelope is empty with 5 days to go in the month, hey, you may not want to replenish that envelope until the following month. Calendar method, register, all of these are techniques. The important thing here to recognize is you want to work and do the tracking and method that is comfortable for you, something that you can be comfortable with. Yes, ma'am.
So if I have extra money left over after I do my budget, then what do I do with that? What should I do with that?
Great question. What's important to you? Is
You told me I couldn't do it. I can't
my-
try. I can't do
my-
it. But making sure I'm on track with everything and
Right.
saving for a rainy day. Maybe I want to go on vacation, or maybe I want to buy a home or things like that. So yeah.
You see, what I do with leftover
Mhm.
is based on my goals and priorities.
Gotcha.
What you just described is based on yours. So when I hear, hey, I want to go on vacation, I'm going to put that extra into an account, a savings account, a high yield account that allows me to save for that next vacation. Hey, I want to pay down this debt. I want to pay down this mortgage like super fast.
Yeah.
I got an extra $300 in the budget. Hey, Bank of America, my mortgage company, I would like to make a principal-only
Right.
payment of
Right.
$300. Now, Miss Cherry there, her goals and priorities may be, hey, I want a new dress and a new pair of red shoes.
You want
She
to do?
said,
You're right.
and so, hey, I've got a little bit of extra.
Right.
Or, hey, I want to save, I've got a 3-year-old who needs, extra school clothes.
Right.
But
So
it,
would it be the same for like needs and wants? My needs might be a little bit different from hers.
correct. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I think, in a subsequent one. But there's that.
Yes.
Yeah, it is taking a look at going back to those values and those priorities that you've set for yourself and those goals, and then aligning whatever is extra. And to your point, that is a really great question, because at the end of the month, right, you want what's coming in and what's going out to include saving,
Yes.
retirement investments, short-term investments, saving for vacations and things like that. You want it to be exact.
And when you do your budget, make sure that you try to figure out a way to have some of your wants in there.
Right.
Because it's nothing worse than doing a budget and feeling like all I'm doing is paying bills.
Right.
Mm.
I
Right.
got my money, I pay my bills. So
Right.
just try to figure out ways to make sure that you have things in there that you like. Dwight, do you discuss like the spending diary or anything in the presentation?
In the spending diary, I don't think we did it in this one, but in our class, yeah, that is clearly a part of it. That's part of that initial step, is based on your current spending, you're beginning to figure out and understand exactly how much am I spending on food,
Right.
Yeah.
on fast food,
Right.
on eating out versus groceries, and that spending diary will allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's key. That's a good point. We'll press ahead here, the next one. And here are some examples of those apps. Speaking of Empower, you need a budget. There's actually an application out there, an app called You Need a Budget. Pocket Guard, Quicken, Honeydew. These are all, some of these are free, some of these are fee-based, as you can see there. But again, the more important thing is find one of those methods that's comfortable for you.
Exactly.
Next one. Let's take a look at how we organize this. Here's an expense tracker, and this gets to your point, Nita, a little bit earlier about that spending data, because you're writing these things down. These are actual expenses that you're having in this example, where we were at X Mart, we bought groceries there, apples for $6.12. Hey, it becomes in my grocery category. The socks is in a clothing category. The insurance of $259 is in my transportation, or you could have an insurance category over here. How about the power bill, the electric bill? Again, it's in housing, or you could have a utilities column over here. Gas, definitely transportation. Rent, definitely housing. And literally, you just take that, and then you're going to total it up at the end of whatever period you're looking at, monthly, weekly. This is your grand total of groceries, grand total of entertainment, of transportation, and so forth, of housing. And literally, that's how you would do it, whether it's on that spreadsheet that we talked about, whether it's in the app, and then you're going to reconcile between what was actually spent to what you budgeted. The next one here, we'll press ahead. Wants and needs, evaluating those and adjusting your plans. Needs, wants, savings, debt, all of these things. But we keep going back to this, aligning it to your priorities and your values. Things like reducing debt, make sure you're including paying yourself first, which accounts for the savings. Let's go to the next one. This is a fun chart that I like, and we've talked about this a couple of times. Is it a want or a need as you begin to reduce some expenses?
Right.
So for example, the house phone, the landline phone, is it a want or a need? I see heads shaking.
Neither.
Need, want,
For a landline?
need.
Yeah.
How about a cell phone? Is it a want or a need?
One or the other.
I hear a lot.
It's a need.
I hear lots of needs for that one. Here's one that I like to throw at you. How about the cell phone for the third grader, the 8-year-old?
That's a one.
Definitely.
You notice though, again, these are based on individual priorities.
I think circumstances.
You think it a need, I may think it a want,
Yeah.
right? High-speed internet access. Boy, I hear a lot of needs on that one
I need it.
nowadays.
Definitely.
I need on that one. Gym membership.
I need that. I do.
We
Mental health. I
talked
need
about that
that.
earlier. We talked about that earlier. How about eating out at restaurants?
No. For what?
The third and fourth vehicles for kids to drive.
I don't even want
Depending on
that.
how old they are.
Right.
How about vacation trips?
Need. I want. I said,
Want.
where am I
I
going?
need.
Like, you need a vacation, but am I going to like Dubai or am I going like
To the beach.
to Virginia Beach?
To
Right.
Virginia Beach.
So
Yeah, I hear folks debating that one all
Yeah.
the time. We had one lady in class, I recall that lady said, hey, it's definitely a need.
yeah, you gotta.
After you've been in the office, with the
Yeah.
folks that I work with, and I think that's how she pretty much described it.
Yeah.
New clothing for every style and every season.
Want.
And then these last two here, music and going to concerts kind of go hand in hand. But yeah, again, the important thing, values, your priorities, individually, of how you view these things. Okay, next one. Here's some spending guidelines. And these are, keep in mind, these are really only guidelines. Your situation may be different from other folks' situation. But as a general guide, about 7% for savings that you're paying yourself first. Housing, we include in this number not only your mortgage and your rent, but also things like your utilities, your power bill, your water bill, things like that. Transportation would include, gas and those periodic oil changes and setting aside monies for repairs and things like that. Debt, well, that's an interesting one. 4%, that number by and large, writ large, depending on the amount of national debt that we have, is obviously much larger. About 15% for groceries, 3% there for things like entertainment and insurance, clothing, medical, miscellaneous. Education obviously depends on whether or not you're paying tuition, how many kids you've got in school. So that may be different than other folks. And in including things like charitable donations and things like that. It may be different than your charitable donations and things like that may be different than others. But a good gauge as you begin to kind of figure out and understand about how much these are typically based on national averages. And the next one, please. And as a guideline again, so if your net income and your guideline, you're just going to take a look at the differences. So for example, if you're only saving 1% and that guideline is 7, then you would probably want to bring that savings up to 6%. Conversely, here your guideline, your percent of housing is 35%. You're actually lower than the guideline, so you've got room there in your housing budget to reallocate. Groceries the same way. You're only doing 11%. The guideline is 15, so you've got some room there. But you may want to adjust your miscellaneous there because you're a little bit over. You're 2% over the national guideline. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? Okay. We'll run through it a quick example. First of all, you're in terms of creating this budget, you're going to take a look at the expense side first. Here you've got $300 of net expenses after taxes and insurance. All of that comes out of your paycheck. And you're also doing some work on the side here. You're baking cakes. You've got a great skill there that you've turned your hobby into an additional source of income. You're also getting some income there in child support. Total income, $5,000 a month in this case we're using. And then here's the cake business taxes that comes out. The state tax for that as well for withholdings of $200. So you've got a monthly net spendable income of $4,800. That's the income side. Now we'll fast forward here to the next chart. And these are the expenses that you've allocated. You've taken a look at that spending diary that we talked about. You've taken a look at past bills, past expenses that you've had, and you've come to the conclusion that, hey, I can allocate these amounts in my budget. I can allocate the $150 for emergency savings, for periodic savings, for that specific goal, for the Christmas gifts and things like that. Here's what's coming out for rent, my insurance, all of these things, my transportation. You notice all of these are neatly categorized. They're categorized by my housing, my transportation, here's my debt. Here's some things like childcare. On this side of the ledger, we've got our food and groceries, entertainment, other insurance, life insurance, disability, and so forth there, clothing, all the way down. And at the end here, we're also saving for retirement, saving for education or paying for tuition, and doing some charitable donations. However, $5,046 of expenses. There's a problem there, right?
Yeah.
Because on the previous slide, it was a $4,800 in income that's coming. So we need to make some adjustments to this budget, right? So let's take a look at that. What are some areas in the budget that you could come up with? We've got to come up with about $246 because there's a difference. What are some of those areas that you may be able to reduce to get this budget to zero base?
Internet bills kind of high.
Mhm.
Internet bills,
$200.
she said, is kind of high, $200
To the under housing.
on the housing. Internet, maybe a little bit high. Is this the situation? Is this a case where you and your accountability partner,
Right.
back to the very beginning, can kind of take a look at that. Married couples can kind of agree, hey, we need to probably reduce that internet. Hey, a friend coming over, your best friend, your accountability partner. Hey, what do you think about this? You know, am I spending too much on this internet? Nah, that's probably a good one to go after. What are some of the other ones? Anything else that comes to mind?
Goals,
Special
savings.
goal, or clothing. perhaps.
Savings goals, clothing. Yes, yeah, you can take a look at those. And then we'll fast forward to the next one, and you'll see that this is a determination that was made. In fact, the internet, we kind of reduced it in half. We also took a look at reducing the allowance piece there and clothing. Again, you may not want to reduce that all the way to zero, but you can reduce a percentage of that.
No new shoes?
No new shoes.
Mm.
Yeah, no new purses. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question. So
Sure.
going back to let's say you have two incomes. One is a straight 9 to 5. You know what your net income is going to be every month. But the second job, using your example that you gave before, with you bake cakes, that fluctuates. You might have a month when you don't get any orders for cakes, and then wedding season or whatever, then you're getting a bunch of orders for cakes. So when your second income or your supplemental income fluctuates, how do you incorporate that into your budget?
Very good question. Very good question. It's a technique. It's what we call an irregular budget.
Okay.
So in that particular technique, and this is where that spending diary comes back, because you will have a record of every month that you had income from that cake baking.
Right.
So you take a look at that. And what you would do typically is take a look at a 12-month period. It's a good period to look at. You're looking at the most amount that you made. Let's say, hey, in the month of February, we had a great month. We made 5,000. Say, you know, in the month of, I don't know, October, we only made 300. So you go from that range, 5,000 to 300. You get the median
Okay.
between those across all of those months. And that is your basis for that average. So say that average is 1,200. Hey, I can kind of depend on about 1,200 between the ebbs and flows of a regular. The other important thing is, remember, you're going to be doing this in pencil, right?
Right.
So as you make adjustments and tweaks to it, you're going to do that in pencil. You're going to erase and just do that from a budget. Based on the historical, you can look back. If you got 2 years of data that says in the month of April, well, let's fast forward to May.
Right.
In May, in 2022, I made $800. In 2023, I made $1,000. So there's probably a good chance that I'm going to make next month in May about $900. And that's the number that you would put
Gotcha.
for your budget going forward. And then you're going to adjust that based on the actual once you reconcile the two. Good question. Good question. Great question. But at the end of it, it's zero based. It is exactly what came in, exactly what goes out. And keep in mind, we're compensating for things like we're also adding these things like paying ourselves first and saving for our longer term goals. The retirement goal, remember, is, hey, it is me at 50. It is me at 60. It is me at 65. When I no longer have a W-2 income, perhaps I'm retired, but I still want to sustain the current lifestyle or at least something close to the lifestyle. I don't want to have to leave my W-2, my commission base, my whatever income that I'm deriving today, and at 70, have that reduced down to zero, where I can't take vacations, where I can't, send the grandkids Christmas card or Christmas gifts and things like that. So keep those in mind. We stress that a lot. We can't stress that a lot enough, is that you want to get to a point where you're continuing your lifestyle into retirement. And then one day, if you're deciding to retire and have enough to retire at 45, because it really isn't an age, right? It is financial independence and having the ability to work when you want to work, if indeed you're able to sustain yourself financially.
Dwight,
Yes.
quick question. In one of the classes we had a participant to ask, if I'm already saving in my retirement, why should I have an emergency savings? Why can't I just pull out of my retirement? So how would you answer that question for someone?
Yes. The retirement is money for the future. It is money that you're going to need to sustain yourself into those golden years. So the short-term savings that is out of the market in this particular case is used for those things like, my God only knows, the emergencies that come up. So you literally would not want to rob your future Anita to pay for things today. And that's literally what we're doing. For example, when you're incurring debt on a credit card, because remember the debt's in the past, but that is money that you're now having to pay against that you're earning in the future. So take a look at the long-term horizon beyond robbing that retirement account. Once you rob that retirement account of any funds, you have disturbed the compounding growth. Remember, I think we talked about that in our last session. We introduced a thing called a rule of 72, where you take the number 72, you divide an annual percentage rate that you expect to earn on your money, and it gives you the number of years for money to double. So when you pull money out, you're having less of that compounding effect to work and actually grow your money. There's this other thing, again, this is beyond budgeting, but a little bit more advanced, is this other manner of catching up and making sure that your money is outpacing the inflation rate. We hear a lot about that today in the news, about the inflation rate, which is about 2%. And all that says is, hey, the price that you pay for this bag of potato chips today probably won't be the same price you're paying 20 years from now. And which you agree that the price you're probably paying 20 years from now is going to be more than what you're paying today. That's inflation. So that money that's in that retirement account, in that investment account, you want it to outpace inflation so that 20 years from now, you've got today's dollars in constant terms, buying the same goods and services for you in the future. Make sense?
Yeah.
So here's our action plan. We talked about it. Hey, setting these SMART goals, prioritizing those. We talked about getting a spending, an accountability partner as you create your spending plan, taking a look at those periodic expenses, those things that, oops, geez, Christmas tomorrow and I don't have anything to save, right? Implementing a spending diary. Thanks, Anita, for that. And then comparing your budget to your actual spending as we did in that one example. I think that's it. Any more additional questions, thoughts, comments? Well, hey, thanks for coming out and joining us today. This was great. Episode 2 here on Budget Boot Camp. Stand by for another episode that's coming up soon, but don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for a live Q&A session that we'll hold right here, right after these commercials.
How does it make you feel to be part of this?
It makes me feel amazing. I love seeing people excited about being able to receive. So many times we complain about what the community isn't doing. So we're out here doing our part to make sure, just like you want to give God's love, you also want people to know that their needs are just important.
This is our community event where we give back to our community with food, clothing, showers, health checks.
This year we service over 1,000 people in the community who needed resources.
This year, 1,000. Next year, 5,000. That's the future of Summer Homes.
Tune in to Summer Homes 2024. We out here.
Hello, welcome back. We are so glad that you guys joined us again for Budgeting Boot Camp. We know y'all have a million questions because this was a great episode. We are already starting to get some questions. My sidekick, I'm going to read these questions off that we have, and then we will get started. So, first question we have, should me and my spouse or significant other have a joint budget? What do you think about that, Dwight? We're going to mix all that money together.
Well, that's interesting. Significant other and spouse, let's be clear, they are not the same. They're two different things. So let's address the spouse. If you are married, husband and wife, in a marital relationship, absolutely, you would want to have a joint budget. And that's not to say, ladies, that you can't have your spending money. That's not to say, guys, you can't have your spending money, pocket change, as we like to call it. But you definitely want to have one household budget. And it includes all of those individual things, her spending money, his spending money. And then, as we talked about in the video, have those budget committee meetings, husband and wife, where you're holding each other accountable, and you've just got that situational awareness and information flow between the two of you. So that is going to be a huge impact on your overall household spending, household savings, household wealth generating machine. If you are in a committed relationship and is not married, I would encourage you to maintain your own separate budgets, but in fact, just give each other situational awareness about the two. Again, the marital structure allows you to combine things like debt. You are taking on a legal obligation when you're married to have your spouse's debt to be one and the same. But if you're in a committed relationship, you may just want to keep those separate. And kind of a non-financial question that I would have for you would be an interesting question for you who are in just a non-marital but long-term committed relationship, and that is, ask yourself, hey, why aren't we married if indeed we are committed to each other?
We got a question from the chat. This question is from Christopher Howard. As a father who has a daughter getting ready for college 2 years from now, how can I budget to make sure she has what she needs without breaking the bank? And what should I incorporate into my personal budget to prepare for college?
Super.
Great question, Mr. Howard.
Couple of things. Number one, I applaud you, sir, for having that parental responsibility and wanting to make sure that your child who's off to college in a couple of years has what he or she needs. So that's great. A couple of things. If you have not started saving for college, in the state of Virginia, there are these 529 college plans that will allow you to put money, paying yourself first as part of that college savings, into a plan that is specifically designed for college savings and expenses. So you want to go online, number one, and kind of take a look at those 529 plans for college. There may be some opportunities to have your son or daughter get scholarships, as an example, for colleges. Yeah. So start right now looking at those kind of resources. If their grades are great, more that's all the better. If the grades perhaps needs to be pulled up a little bit, perhaps think about investing in a tutor. If there are some areas that need to be shored up in English or math or writing and things like that, perhaps engaging the work of a tutor, and there are plenty of those out there. So the key is to just start putting that money aside into that college fund. There are some tax deduction benefits there that it would benefit you in doing that, setting that money aside, and then just preparing your son or daughter for these exciting years ahead where they were going off to college.
Let me jump in there too. My past history was in financial aid. Make sure your child is looking at doing that financial aid form, the FAFSA, as soon as possible. And then also, because this is going to be your child's first time going away, get them educated on their finances and financially educated. So make sure they understand budgeting. Make sure they understand credit, because sometimes they're so used to being able to fall back on things that you're going to do for them. When they get to college, we've been there. We're out there, we're living alone, we're spending money. Make sure they understand those things, budgeting and credit, so that as they're going through college, they're able to start saving and putting away a little bit of money for themselves.
Yeah, good insights.
Yep.
We got another question from the chat from Tanya Pierce. When going out with friends, how do you let them know you may not be able to join them if you've already exceeded your budget? How do I tell my friends I've exceeded my budget?
That is a great question, Tanya. I think.
Okay. No, go ahead.
I think in that instance, first of all, I think sometimes we get embarrassed if we have to tell somebody we don't have money for something. So just tell them that you are planning for your future and you have started living by a budget, and you have money built into that budget to be able to go out with your friends and do things. But so far this month, you have already exceeded that. So what you may want to do after you've told them that is go back and relook at that budget and see if there are any things that you can change that may put a little bit more money in your budget to help be able to go out with your friends. But I think one of the things that we see, people are really embarrassed when they don't have money or when they've started a budget and they don't want to tell their friends. That's not anything to be embarrassed about. You know, Dwight has talked about it, and it's just being prepared and understanding how to prepare yourself for the next time you guys go out.
You want to know the thought I had is, wow, I commend you. What a leadership moment.
Great.
That is a tremendous leadership moment. You are actually leading your friends by example. And so your friends are going to turn to you in the future when they need advice, when they're looking for having to make a decision about crossroads. I believe they're going to come to you for that advice because of the leadership you've shown. So what you've said is, hey, based on my priorities and my values, I've got a threshold amount to spend on eating out and entertainment, and I've reached that threshold amount for this budget period. So how about we plan this for the next budget cycle when I do have money built in? And for this particular cycle, because I'm out of slits, as we say in a lot of places, I'm out of tea, I'm out of coffee, we'll just forego it for now and plan on something here during the next budget cycle.
And then a good point, Dwight, since she's now going to be that leader and she can talk to them, she can now be their accountability buddy.
Yeah.
We talked about having that accountability partner.
Yeah.
And you can talk to them about the importance of budgeting. And then maybe if they hadn't thought about it, now that you're going to be that leader or that accountability buddy, then they'll understand the next time it's time to go out if they don't have enough tea and they have to say, hey, let's do it the next time.
Yeah, let's do it the next time. Very nice.
Okay, so another question that we got, I like to shop. Sonia says she likes to shop. What should she include in that budget? Should she include when she wants to shop, or should she just say, hey, I'm just going to shop without it being in my budget?
Shopping's an interesting one. When we talk about budgeting, you're making sure that you've got, based on the income that's coming into the household every month or every 2 weeks, whatever your budgeting period is, you want to make sure that you're covering the essential things. We call them the 4 walls. We call it things, housing. That includes your utility bills if you're paying those. It includes things like food and transportation. And so after that, shopping is actually categorized as a discretionary spending category. You've got discretion over what to buy and what not to buy. And so essentially you can categorize according to the things that you're buying. You can categorize, hey, here's my shoes budget, here's my clothing budget, here's my work clothes budget. you can actually subcategorize according to that. Then give yourself, the important thing is to give yourself that amount each budget period, each 2 weeks or each month or whatever, and then just don't exceed that. That's a great way to line up that shopping budget.
Yeah. Man, you guys are active today. So next question we got. If my expenses outweigh my revenue, why should I cut expenses instead of just increasing my cash?
Good question. There's no right or wrong answer here. You might want to do both. You might want to increase your income. You may want to take a look at those expenses that can be cut out of the budget, where again, you get to a zero base. You get to an amount of income that's coming in, and you've given each of those dollars an assignment against the expenses that you have. So there's no right or wrong. Get another job, get some additional sources of income, as well as cut the expenses. What you may see oftentimes though is as our income increases, so does our spending, our lifestyle. We call it life creep, kind of enters the picture. And so while you may be making a whole lot more, yet at the same time, if you're spending a whole lot more, you're essentially not gaining a whole lot of traction. So take that extra income after you've got your expenses under control to pay yourself first, which is what we advocate, in the program. Pay yourself first, your savings. You're saving for your emergency fund. You're saving to the previous question there, the gentleman, saving for the college tuition for your child or daughter's college, saving for your retirement, the longer term things, savings for specific categories, a vacation that the family may want to take to Disney World, to Disneyland, saving for another car that the family might need. So using those extra dollars to do not necessarily spending, but in the savings and the broader context. So the short answer is, hey, do them both, but just not let your lifestyle creep as your income increases. And trust me, you're working long enough, your income will go up. You won't be making the same as a 30-year-old. Hopefully, you'll be making more as, a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, and so forth.
Yeah, and even if you decide that you want to go and get that job, still look at your budget and maybe even do a spending diary to look at those expenses and kind of break down where you're spending the most money, because you may be shocked that you're spending $400 eating out and you can cut back on some of those things so that you have that extra money that you can set aside for savings. So that question was great. Thank you, David. The next question.
We have a question from Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got a question. This is from Betsy Jean 32 from our Instagram. We talk a lot about what to cut. My question is what not to cut. Aside from my rent or mortgage, what do you think is the last expense in my personal budget that I should attempt to cut out, and why?
Here I'm going to enter into a mini coaching session with you, because the question you ask is one that you have to answer. Just recognizing that your priorities and your values and the things that you place that premium on perhaps isn't universally the same for everyone. So the best way to approach that is to just have the discussion with yourself or your accountability partner or someone you know and love and trust, and have that conversation with them one-on-one or in a group session, and just try to understand what it is that's important to you. You mentioned a couple of those things. Some of those monthly things are non-negotiable. You have to pay your mortgage, you have to pay your rent. If you don't pay, for example, your electric bill, the Virginia Power will probably be, cutting that off. You have to do your water bill. You have to pay, those debts perhaps that you might have that you have incurred. Otherwise, you fall behind on those. They go to collections. All kinds of nasty things happen. But in the part of the previous answer to the previous question was, what we talked about, those discretionary things. Entertainment, as an example, is a discretionary item. So some folks may have a strong desire to go to movies, other folks may not. Recreation is another discretionary thing. Gym memberships, as an example, comes to mind, is an example of a discretionary thing. I enjoy going to the gym. Fortunately, in my case, I don't have to pay because I'm a government guy in addition to doing the master coaching. But if you value and prioritize, hey, I want to stay in shape. Others may, hey, I want to take time to have some mental counseling and along that line. And if that's important to you, then that becomes a discretionary item that you're placing a huge premium on, a huge priority. So the answer is make sure you're taking care of those non-negotiables. Another term for that is non-discretionary, that you have to pay your rent, you have to pay your utilities, you have to eat, so you have to build food in there. But to the other question on the clothing, as an example, that would be a more of a discretionary thing if indeed you've got a closet full of clothes already. So I hope that helps give you a little bit more insights into kind of what not to cut.
Great. Every time we do these sessions, I learn something new. So as we stated, we wanted people to join, and we do have our gift card winner. So Tanya Pierce, you are our gift card winner. We will send you a DM with your gift. So we've talked about paying yourself first. So this is your first $100 that you can figure out, what can I do? Can I take 10% of this and put it into a savings? So we're going to be sending that to you. Even after this episode is over, if you have questions, you can go ahead and drop them in our chat, and we will still be answering those questions later. Okay, so that was our last question, and we are so excited about you guys being here. We want to thank you for tuning into this episode. Dwight is always such a great sidekick. And as a special treat, going to keep this episode up all day long. So just continue to look for this all day long. Please continue to share this link with your friends and family, and join us for our next episode, the C word.
The C
what
word.
Could that be?
The C word. I like that.
So we will see you guys next month when we drop the next episode, the C word.